This was in, where is this? Connecticut. Judge orders the new Bridgeport mayoral primary after surveillance video shows possible ballot stuffing. Possible. What they've showed in this case is nothing less, nothing more than what Dinesh D'Souza revealed in 2000 Mules. And the way they describe it, a state judge has taken the unusual step of ordering a new Democratic mayoral primary in Connecticut's largest city to be held on November 7, general election, yada, yada. The decision comes after surveillance video showed a woman stuffing what appeared to be absentee ballots into an outdoor ballot box days before the original primary. Robert, am I mistaken? Everybody can read it a little more if they want to. Am I mistaken, or is that not exactly what Dinesh D'Souza's 2000 Mules revealed of 2020?
It's exactly the same. So, I mean, I may put up the ruling. I wasn't able to highlight it because of the way the ruling was published, but still put it up at the vivabarneslaw.locals.com board as part of the Barnes Law School series, because it goes through all the things that we talked about back in 2020. This was a judge that just applied the standard I talked about back then, which was there's chain of custody requirements for ballots in terms of who sends them, how it's certified that they were sent, who requests its receipt, how that was done. Then there's requirements about the chain of custody of the return of that ballot, how the ballot is signed, in whose presence it is signed, who signs the ballot, how it is delivered back to the officer, who delivers it back to the election officer. And what happened in 2020 is those protocols and procedures were routinely and regularly violated in all of the key swing states and other states as well. And what happened here is that, like, for example, there was no allegation that these votes were themselves fraud. And what did the judge make clear throughout the hearing? What I talked about throughout 2020, which was you don't have to prove fraud, that we have presumptions that an election was invalid if we have doubts about who actually voted for who. And if the election rules are violated in a substantial manner, we presume that those ballots don't count. And if the number of those ballots exceeds the margin of victory, the appropriate remedy is always a new election. Now, you have an argument in the presidential context that maybe it should have gone to the House of Representatives because the unique issues related to the presidency. But putting that part aside, the rest is exactly what, and the judge articulates every single thing by law and fact that I talked about 2020. And he just did what was every judge should have done in 2020, but refused to do, which was, again, you don't cite whether there's fraud. It's only, was the ballot sent in the proper manner? Was the ballot received by the proper person? Was it signed by the proper person? Was it signed without other people being present in such a way that could lead to questions of blackmail or coercion or anything else? And was it delivered back in the proper manner? And what you had was problems at every single stage, most egregiously substantiated by the fact that in Connecticut, a person who was not within a limited category could not deliver ballots to the drop boxes. And what you had were mules, including city employees doing it. And these city employees, by the way, took the Fifth Amendment rather than testify specifically at trial.
I'll just read this for the podcast later. This is from the article in NBC, so you know it's got to be true. The quote, the video evidence, exhibits, and testimony prove election fraud on a scale not seen in Connecticut or anywhere else in the country 2020 in recent history. Not only does the record prove election tampering, it was caught on video, Gomez lawyer had written in a legal brief. They noted Gomez identified, quote, multiple violations, end quote, of absentee ballot violations, including, quote, hundreds of absentee ballots, end quote, cast by, quote, party operatives, end quote, which show the reliability of the primary results to be, quote, seriously in doubt. And then it goes on. It's almost like Parkinson's law of mundanity. It says that, like, you know, the people at an office can talk about where to put the water cooler for 20 minutes, but how to maximize shareholder value 5 minutes, because one is a easy problem that everyone can have an opinion on. The other one's complicated. Nobody wants to say anything, so they just pass over it. It's almost like, okay, well, a presidential election, it's such a big flipping deal when you have these problems. You can't address it without undermining the entire system. But a lowly mayoral thing in Connecticut, there you can address it, and there you can say, even though these are identical circumstances, you know, by and large, can't address it at the presidential scale, but can address it at the mayoral scale. I don't know where that thought was going. What happens? So they're gonna call a new election. They don't have the date for it yet, but this is basically what happened during 2020.
Yep.
All right.
And it shows what the remedy should have been, or that some remedy should have been given.
Black pill right there, Robert.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you have a low-key mayor's race, they're willing to follow the law. When it was the president of the United States, they weren't.